Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Divine Feminine Healers podcast. It is your host, Angelica, and happy full moon. I'm actually recording this on the day of the full moon, which lands on Thursday, May 23rd. And in Vedic astrology, it lands in the sign of Scorpio. And this is a really transformative full moon. I'm going to get into all the details on what you may be experiencing and how this can actually be really fruitful for us and how we can work with these energies. But before we get into that, for those who are new here, my name is Angelica. I've been an intuitive healer for over the past 10 years. I started this whole healing journey getting into yoga, and then that led me into Ayurveda and Reiki. And I just simply love all things healing and spirituality. From there, I've built my own business from it. And now I primarily help women how to market their spiritual businesses in a really intuitive way. And something that I love that I bring to the women in my membership is that without the foundation of a strong spiritual practice, whatever that looks like for you, the business part is going to feel so hard because if you're an entrepreneur, you know you constantly have to take risks. You know there's a lot of highs and lows. You know there's a lot of labor of love, especially in the beginning. And without you having a connection to source of knowing when there's signs on your path and knowing that you are making the right decisions when it seems like it's not being put out in your physical reality just yet, it's everything. That's what keeps you going. And that's why I think so many businesses fails, because without that strong connection, it feels like, gosh, is this really working? All that doubt, all those limiting beliefs really creep in. So that's why I love bringing these moon updates for you, because they provide this foundation. And that's really what this full moon is about. So full moon in Scorpio, I have such a special relationship with the moon specifically being in Scorpio because, as some of you know, natally, my moon is in Scorpio. And I swear I have every single one of my clients has some type of Scorpio placement in their chart, which is hilarious. I have a lot of friends and families who have Scorpio, specifically the moon placed in Scorpio. And why I love it is that in Vedic astrology, it's said that the moon is debilitated in Scorpio. This is because Scorpio is ruled by Mars and it has a lot of this fiery energy to it. Well, that's the opposite energy of the moon. That's supposed to be nurturing and expansive and slow and motherly. So they can kind of clash at times when the moon is in Scorpio. What I have known this to be, and I actually did a whole episode on this with two mentors that I love who also have their moon in Scorpio. You can watch this in one of my past episodes. It talks about like moon in Scorpio. And it's basically saying that you have a higher sensitivity to your emotions and to your intuition. And although in our society we'll write this off as being like too intense or too sensitive, when you learn how to really connect with the deepest parts of yourself and your emotions, and you're able to transform them, which is what Scorpio says, it's deep wisdom behind that. It's you being able to really shine into your gifts and use them as your best gifts. So that is what I see Scorpio as from a higher perspective. I know initially when we hear Scorpio, I was talking about this in my membership this week when we were doing our moon ceremony. Initially we think jealous, overly attached, that like detective or that jealous girlfriend who is going to be bitter and revengeful. And I received a really good reminder how these aspects can totally be real for Scorpios who choose to live into that state. We all have these shadow traits that we have to overcome. So if you're feeling that right now, like that could definitely be a thing, but that doesn't have to be your story. You could definitely use those lower emotions to understand how to transform them into their most highest purpose. So let's get into that and how to really use this Scorpio energy for our greatest and highest good. So the first thing that I want to talk about with Scorpio is that it means transformation. It very much is likened to the metaphor of the snake, and that's why Kundalini is often likened to that metaphor of the snake. It says that Kundalini, when it is not active, it lies dormant at the base of the spine. But when we activate our Kundalini energy, which is a form of yoga, it coils up the spine and it awakens each of the chakras. As it awakens each of the chakras, we get to higher levels of consciousness. And there's this inner alchemization that naturally happens. There's a Kundalini awakening, if you've heard that terminology before. So Scorpio is all about transformation, and it's all about meeting your shadow self. So within these this week, you may notice there's a part of yourself that feels really ugly to see, something that you've deemed completely unlovable that you may have pushed aside in the past, but it's coming up again. You're like, oh, why is this thing coming up again? I really don't like this part of myself. But the more that you can really start to understand why you think that part of yourself is ugly and really understand the story behind it, that's when you liberate yourself from that story and cut ties from attracting that cycle again. That is the beauty and the power of Scorpio and why it's such a powerful sign. So shadow sides are coming up, but only to be alchemized. Scorpio is also one of the deepest feeling signs. I always use this quote from my teacher. He says, most signs, if painting was a way of communicating how a sign feels, most signs paint with 4 to 5 colors, but Scorpio draws with 25. And if you're a Scorpio, you're like, yes, I feel things just so deeply and so intensely. And I am highly sensitive. And I'm sure you're noticing just in my voice. And if you listen to my podcast, like I have a lot of passion. It's a lot. And that can be coming up right now. So if you're feeling that intensity, know that all of that is temporary, all that it's coming up only so that you can look at it from a higher perspective and transform it. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars, which is the planet of passion. Sounds amazing, right? Like really diving into our passions. But on the other end of the pole of passion is anger and jealousy and can be revenge. It's more of those fiery emotions that come from a lower vibration. So that could be coming up for you right now. If you're being triggered by someone else, whether you're jealous of something that they're doing, or if you're feeling revengeful in some type of way, and these are the emotions or the stories that you may have written off as being ugly or unlovable. I mean, think about it. No one looks at a person that's jealous and is like, oh God, it's really deemed as something that feels unlovable. But it's a very human quality and emotion that we all have. So take notice this week, who's ruffling your feathers? And the way to heal this is, okay, am I going to project this and blame it on that other person? Or am I going to take responsibility and say, why am I so triggered by this person? Why do I feel like I want so badly what they have and I don't want them to have it? That's all that jealousy is, right? Is wanting what the other person has and feeling like it is just not possible for you. This is why the other pole of this emotion is passion. When you see someone that has something that you want, when you don't feel you are worthy or it's possible for you to have it, you're going to want to take it away from them. If I can't have it, no one can have it. But when you can look at that person and say, okay, maybe you're just showing me what's possible. Maybe I can have that in an even better and greater way that really feels good uniquely to me. And that is where you take back your power. So if you're feeling these really quote unquote ugly emotions, know that it's just coming up to be cleared. It's a good thing. Notice your reaction to these emotions. If you want to hide them, that's for sure my initial reaction of like, no, I'm not a jealous person, or no, I'm not triggered by this person or angry or whatever. And we want to not feel. Just notice that emotion that you have or that reaction to it and just try to lean in. The feeling is temporary. It may feel intense because it's Scorpio, but allow yourself to really ride that wave, to feel the sensation in your body, and then ask yourself, why am I triggered by this situation? What makes me feel like I can't have what that other person has, if that's what's coming up for you? Now, this full moon is also placed in the star sign called Anuradha, which is the star sign of friendship and community. So this kind of softens the blow of Scorpio's intensity a little bit. Anuradha is really, it's a sign of friendship, and it's saying that our connections are so important right now. So when you're getting these certain obstacles that are thrown in your life, who can you turn to? Who are those people that are really close in your life that you can lean on that can help you? What's also really fruitful about connections during this time is Venus and Jupiter are conjunct from May 20th through May 28th. And that is ushering in more opportunities for connection and community. So you may notice as you're going through this obstacle, oh, but I do have that close friend that I'm so grateful for that I can lean on right now and call and ask for their advice. Or, oh my gosh, I have this beautiful spiritual community that I can lean back on that can help me through this time right now. Anuradha also represents overcoming obstacles with deep faith and God. If you think about it, every single time you go through a transformation and you go through this shadow side and it feels like your whole world is changing, the only thing that doesn't change is your relationship with God. Of course, that's ever evolving, but you know that you have something to fall back on. And our relationship with God is so unique. Mine is very spiritual. So mine's connecting with my angels and literally talking out loud to them, or connecting with my ancestors and honoring them with an altar, communicating them with my dreams, having them send me signs, channeling their words and every morning and being able to hear the messages that are coming through. That's how I connect with them. But how you connect with them can be completely different, and that's perfectly fine. But this relationship is going to fortify you the most as you go through this full moon. It's the most important part. Okay, so all that to say, that's the backdrop of this full moon. And now I'm going to offer up a ritual that you can take on if you're really feeling this full moon, especially if you have a Scorpio placement. You can really use this full moon to your advantage to really make leaps and bounds for your inner transformation on your healing journey. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know that that's going to be leaps and bounds for your business. So yeah, new collaborations and connections for your business can definitely be coming up right now. Of course, once you work through the obstacles or whatever shadows are coming up for you. So a full moon ritual that would be so perfect right now is to make an altar. And this can seem so basic. You don't have to get this like pretty altar, although that is amazing, but you can just use a surface or a corner of your room and put a picture of an ancestor or a role model, someone that you love. This would be like Prince or Stevie Nicks. I don't know if you've seen those like candlesticks that usually they have like saints on them, but at least here in Los Angeles, we have them and they're like Stevie Nicks and Prince. And like, I just love that so much. So your altar and the people that you look up to, just a picture of them or something that reminds you of them, and then decorate it, maybe put some fresh flowers and light a candle. When you come to that space, you want to put good thoughts and good energy towards it. So maybe you put crystals there, maybe you meditate there, you chant, you pray, whatever your spiritual practice is, it's just positive affirmations. It could be so simple. And when you are doing this ritual, ask your guides for a very clear and specific sign. And when you ask for a sign, this doesn't have to be something of like, oh God, I'm waiting day in and day out, just waiting for this sign. But you know what? It's just, I want this sign if I'm headed in the right direction. And it's going to come to you when you least expect it. And when you're just like, thank you so much. You're going to laugh so hard and it's going to feel so intimate. That's what the relationship with God really feels like. I'm also going to share some journal prompts. So if you choose to do this ritual, you can also do these journal prompts and they can stimulate a great conversation with source and with your ancestors. So the first question is, what relationships respect my boundaries and help me to grow into the person that I want to be? What relationships respect my boundaries and help me to grow into the person I want to be? So like I said, this full moon is all about our connections with other people. And a lot of the healers that I work with have to work really strong on their boundaries. You can't just have these deep and divine connections with everyone, as I'm sure you've learned on your path. So really list out the ones that have been super fruitful for you, where you felt like, as much as I'm giving, I feel like I'm also receiving in this relationship, and it feels really deep. Second question, how can I lean into these friendships during my current shedding process? It's good to have friends like this. Of course, we don't want to trauma dump on our people, but asking them for permission if they have space to hold you today, and knowing that a deep and fortified friendship can be there. They're going to be your rock. They want to help you. Even if they're going through something themselves, it feels good to help another friend, and they want to be there for you if they are your true friend. Third question, what is my current connection to God and how am I nurturing it? Like I said, this is ever evolving. So where are you currently receiving messages? Where are you currently noticing synchronicities in your life right now? That is your connection to God. And the last questions, what part of me resists support from the people in my life and my spirit team? A lot of times it's hard for us to ask for help. We think we have to do everything all alone. Scorpio is also a sign, because you're feeling things so intensely, it can feel really lonely at times. Because the moon is technically debilitated in Scorpio, there's this loneliness feeling that can come up. But truly, when you have a strong faith in God, you realize you're never alone. You realize there's angels and ancestors supporting you all along the way. There's signs whenever you want and you ask for it. You just have to be open to receiving it. So what part of you resists support from the people in your life and your spirit team? Are you one that makes up stories like, oh my gosh, they have 3 kids and they've got this going on, they're not going to be there to support me? Or are you saying, oh, I'm going to be too much and too intense? Or the opposite? Are you thinking, gosh, my problems are nothing compared to what they've been through? Just notice that story that's coming up for you of why you don't reach out to your friends when you do need it. And the last question is, how can I open myself to receiving without guilt or shame or blame? So, when you open yourself up, it feels so vulnerable to ask for help. How can you not feel guilty or ashamed when you do? How can you know and trust that that is what a true connection is supposed to be like? All right, moon beauties, I hope you enjoyed this full moon and ritual. If you're going through the intense feelings, I totally feel you. I went through a huge wave of them yesterday and it's intense, but I know that you have the strength to conquer it through it with your spiritual practices and these deep and divine connections that you have. If you're looking for your spiritual community, I would absolutely love for you to join our Divine Healers membership, where it's a community of all spiritual entrepreneurs, where we're growing our spiritual business, leaning on each other for support, and coming together to do these rituals together so that we're constantly evolving our healing journey. It's just such a blast and a half. You can just DM me directly at Angelica_feminine_healer to hear more about it. And if you love this episode, please comment, rate, and review on either Apple or Spotify. I would adore it and be so grateful. Thank you for listening along with me. I hope you enjoy the full moon, and I will see you next time.